to just present on some problems with the plan the affirmative presented. The removal of tenure from public schools will fail to address the problems they presented of poor teacher effectiveness and the difficulty with which it is to remove poor teachers from the system, because it does not make better evaluation, or it does not remove union involvement, which is a greater obstacle to the removal of teachers than tenure itself. Tenure itself is not the problem, it is the things surrounding it that are creating these issues. The California Teachers Association says that tenure has become a popular term used as a scapegoat for the real problems, which include ineffective evaluation of instruction and poor administrative practices. Currently, evaluation is under the SCULL Act in California, which is about 40 years old, and it is terribly imprecise on what evaluations to use, and each school can interpret it a little bit differently. It's even up to the teachers, so there's no standardized way of evaluating teachers. It's going to be difficult to come up with a way of evaluating teachers, but just removing tenure does not fix the problem of how do we evaluate the teachers we're giving tenure to. Does that make sense? The United Teachers Los Angeles president, A.J. Duffy, has said many times that the current evaluation system is broken and needs to be revamped. Currently, it only takes into account math and English scores, which is less than half of the classes that we took in elementary school. So how do we know that all the teachers are being ineffective when only 2 of their classes are really being judged? And it's based on a standardized score that does not take into account the things my partner mentioned, like school funding or their home life, things like that. The Center for Future Teaching and Learning, which is based in California, finds that California's system of teacher evaluation is outdated and does not consider a range of meaningful measures of student achievement. It doesn't provide valuable information for these teachers to improve. We're not giving them feedback. How can we expect teachers to improve when we're not giving them any feedback? The problem isn't tenure. The problem is that we're not pushing these teachers to succeed. We're not giving them that feedback that they need. You can be at a job for many years and have a stable job and still improve every year. Susie Emmerling, who reports for AmericanProgress.org, says that in most states, teacher tenure processes remain largely disconnected from teachers' performance in the classroom. So the affirmative presented that removal of tenure will basically increase teacher effectiveness, but if the evaluation and tenure are completely separate, how is removing tenure going to increase evaluation and therefore increase effectiveness? Also a huge problem with the dismissal of poor teachers are the unions. They are a greater obstacle to the removal of poor teachers than tenure is. In New York City, unions ordinarily prevent teachers from being dismissed for incompetence. So the schools must pay failed teachers their full salaries to sit year after year and do nothing in centers called rubber rooms. So basically these teachers are getting paid to do nothing. And that's not because of tenure, that's because when they tried to fire them, the union stepped in and prevented them from being fired. So now they get paid to do nothing. Tenure had nothing to do with it. The unions were our main force in this. In another example, Joseph Walker, who was a principal at Grant High School in Van Nuys, tried to fire a special education teacher on allegations of repeated sexual harassment. A civil jury sided with him and decided to dismiss the teacher, but a review commission standing in for the union decided that the teacher should not be fired. As of 2009, the court case had dragged on for 7 years, which astronomical court fees, you can imagine. Walker stepped down as principal of that school, and he's now the principal of Discovery Charter Preparation Academy. And so far, in 2009, he had fired 3 teachers. The teachers at his new school were not unionized, but they did have tenure. So you see, tenure is not the problem. He can fire poor teachers when they don't have a union who's stepping in and protecting poor teachers. Finally, I would like to note that school administration admits that unions more than tenure are a problem in getting rid of teachers. Over 61% of those surveyed in an Illinois school board research study noted that unions are a greater problem than tenure itself. And I would also like to talk about the potential for negative side effects if tenure were removed from our public school system. Among these are the decreased potential for new quality teachers to enter the field. Our opponents are saying that by getting rid of tenure, we'll be bringing in new teachers, we'll be able to hire more teachers. But because we're setting or continuing a trend that education is not worth supporting and we're pulling money from those systems, we're going to be losing bright young minds to the private sector. Boris Korosumsky, who reports for the Education Week website and is a teacher himself, says that I know many of the nation's best teachers would have left the profession for the private sector if their paltry public school salaries were not augmented by relative job security. Tenure is a way to keep bright young minds in education because it gives them more job security in a job that really doesn't have all that many perks. We say that the summers off and weekends off are a good thing, but it really doesn't take into account the difficulties they have to face in teaching these students and constantly having to come up with new ideas and work very hard to get their points across. In other nations that we like to compare ourselves to, they place strong value on teachers. Even countries like Korea and Finland. Finland has very, very high test scores. Their students perform very well overall. In even Singapore, they hire only high-performing college graduates and provide them with strong support, including training and mentoring, to strengthen their classroom performance. So you see, tenure really isn't the issue. It's we're supporting the teachers. If we're not supporting the teachers, we're pulling tenure from them. There's nothing to keep them in education. We're not giving them any feedback either. How can we expect them to do well in their jobs? We're just not making it easy at all for a teacher to succeed. Again, the Center for Future Learning and Teaching in California says that California's teaching workforce is running on empty. The disinvestment in building a top-quality teacher workforce is at odds with rising demands for students' academic success. The fiscal crisis has so severely damaged the pipeline for recruiting and training new teachers that teaching quality may be put at risk for many years to come. So as you can see, the removal of tenure is a plan that is not well thought out. It does not address the real issues, which are poor evaluation and the union obstacle of dismissing poor teachers. And in the future, it can result in severe damage to public education because it's removing support from teachers and it's discouraging new minds from entering the field.